Hey everyone, it's SK Ren.
Your real estate friends. We have something super excited, close, near and dear to our hearts that we are going to talk about today. Something that we knew nothing about 4 years ago.
And we just failed up.
We failed up. We have failed time and time again.
But each time we get right back up.
We get a little bit better, and we're going to tell you what we know about having livestock on your acreage. This is a beginner's guide. We were beginners. I would say we've past beginners a little bit. We're intermediate. There's advanced.
We're working our way
We're in the
up.
middle. We're somewhere in the middle of we've learned a lot. We still have a lot of places to go. We still have a lot to learn.
Yes.
So let's jump right into it. The beginner's guide to livestock on your acreage.
We're going to cover 6 areas today.
6 categories.
6 categories
of having livestock on your acreage. Number 1 is fencing.
The most important.
We call this the foundation of your production. It's the foundation of your success on how well you are going to be able to keep, maintain, and flourish your livestock. So fencing.
Yeah, so there's we have horses on our property, so we have a mixture of some metal fencing, some wood fencing. Our property originally came with a lot of barbed wire fencing.
They had cattle. So this is the first thing is like you're gonna want to what kind of livestock do you want to have?
Yeah.
Because the fencing is gonna change, right? Like you're and the next one is shelter, but fencing for chickens, maybe you don't need fencing for chickens, right?
Maybe you need that chicken wire.
Maybe you need chicken wire. You don't need you need serious kinds of fencing for goats. They love to break through fencing.
They love to climb.
Cows can be good under some barbed wire, and horses no go in barbed wire. So yeah,
no barbed wire.
We're gonna kind of talk a little bit more specifically about what we know about horses because we board horses.
Yeah, and we did. So we have some wood, some metal fencing, and also just regular electric fencing.
Yeah.
Electric fencing will do the trick.
Electric fencing has worked for the horses. However, it definitely comes with a lot more maintenance than as if you were to, I don't know, I feel like all fencing is maintenance, right? Like unless you have the steel fencing,
unless you have that
costs
Buckley
like
fence.
What is that? Probably like $300 a yard.
Yeah.
No, how big is it? No, yeah.
Like $50,000 or $60,000 for
one time
a 4 to 5 acre pasture.
Yeah.
It'll take you about 20 years to get that money back.
Damn. But hey, if you got a Buckley fence, cheers to you. Like, we applaud you.
We're about to get some Buckley fences before we
admire you. If you got a Buckley fence, you know what's so funny is
before
like now,
we die, I'm getting a Buckley fence.
It's like now I could tell if someone has money based on what kind of fence they got.
Oh yeah.
If you're driving through people's acreages or like you're driving around land, it's like, damn, look at that fence.
Yeah.
But anyways, so fencing, very important. It's the foundation.
Yeah.
If I were to in the beginning, not our property was pretty like set out. It was like, here's a pasture, here's a pasture, here's a pasture. If your property is not set out, really take some time to think about how you want that fencing to connect to other fencing. You have to seriously research, like for example, with the horses, like we have to be able to close off pastures and they need to be able to stay in a dry lot. So to make a dry lot, a connected pasture, a pasture that connects to that pasture so you can close off that pasture. So you really got to spend some time thinking about your fencing.
And how you're going to use it.
How you're going to use it.
How you're going to enter it.
Exit it.
Exit it. Yep. All that stuff.
And what kind of machinery you're going to need to be able to get into there. How wide your gates are going to have to be. So
yep.
Fencing, super important. All right. Number 2. We're only going to try and spend 2 minutes on each
Number
thing.
2 is shelters.
Shelter. You start off. I need a drink.
We have horses again. So we have shelters that are lean-tos. So they have 3 sides and they're open on one side where they can enter. And it just helps keep them out of the wind. They can kind of cuddle up in there, hug each other in the winter time, stay warm. Like I think, do cows have shelters? They might have something similar.
Yeah, so like if you live in again, like this is all kind of particular to the scope of the land that you have, but like some people will say like, oh, if you have trees, that's enough shelter for them. Like they'll get in, get into the trees, get into the brush, and get out of the hail,
The
get out of
warmth
the
from Mother Earth.
right. But lean-tos are pretty big kind of shelter on acreages with livestock. And then also like if you're thinking about like doing chickens or a different kind of animal.
Oh.
I was gonna yell at you for sneezing. Like, you okay?
Excuse me.
You almost held that in there. Whew.
Excuse me.
You like looked at me. You like looked at me for like approval on your sneeze.
Those shelters get me excited.
Jesus. Anyways, so bigger the animal, bigger the shelter. You can buy shelters that are pre-made, that are prefabricated, and they just drop them off at your house. I think we looked at getting like a really small one. It was like $4,000.
Yeah.
Or you can look into the price of having someone build it. There's not a ton of people. You kind of have to like look up like your local like handyman, carpenter. You want someone who's qualified to build it, right? Because it's outside, it needs to be durable. But yeah, make sure you price out like already built structures compared to just having someone come and build it.
Yeah. And we like building our own because we think they're probably more durable.
We like building our own. We also have seriously considered just like buying a prefab one and then dropping it off. But what we kind of found is that the size, right? It's like pick one: fast, cheap, or fast, affordable, done well.
Yeah.
So like if you want it done fast and it done well, it's going to be expensive for a small shelter. But if you are okay with it maybe taking a little bit longer, you might be able to just build it yourself and it be much bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, and
that's kind
durable.
of more durable. That's kind of what we found. And as far as like the price, it just depends.
It's about average.
It just depends. It's about the same.
About the same.
Sometimes you just it just takes longer, but when you build it yourself, I feel like you can get a bigger structure versus having someone else build it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pay for the labor, so it's kind of a wash. But anyways, so there's the shelter aspect. Number 3, the beginner's guide to having livestock on your acreage is very important. Number 3 is room to be comfortable.
Yeah. I think they say that livestock like horses and cows you should have one animal per acre, or is it two animals?
Acres.
One animal per 2 acres.
One animal per 2 acres, yeah.
Okay.
That's like the city code. However, we have 12 horses on our property right now, and I would say that the minimum requirements are not enough for your livestock to be happy and healthy, especially if you are feeding your livestock with the hay or the grass that is grown on your property. So we do a little bit of both. We do hay and pasture time. So we feed the horses hay.
And then they also get to graze on the pasture.
Right. So we try to make sure there's ample hay for them to graze on all summer long, which also includes a whole slew of rotating them on pastures and
seeding, fertilizing,
all that stuff. But you need to have space. Especially, again, I'm going to keep saying this, the bigger the animal, the bigger the
space you
budget, the bigger the space you need, the bigger the fence, the bigger the shelter, the bigger machinery you're going to need to
one loophole might be pigs. Pigs
are gross.
You might be able to have more pigs than cattle or horses on a smaller plot of land.
Also, like birds, I don't really know much about birds. Like if you're like
and stuff.
No, not chickens, but like if you're like doing like what's those one birds called?
Quail,
pheasant. Some of those kind of birds. Those food birds.
Yeah.
Anyway, so room to be comfortable. Anything else you had to say about that?
No. Yeah, just make sure they have plenty of space.
And don't overdo it. Like start small. Like we started with 2 horses, and we got 2 more, then we got 2 more, then we got 2 more, then we took on 2 more. And this is with everything when you bring livestock to your property.
Start small.
and grow off of that, build off of that, because there will be things that you learn. Like
Yeah,
we were
especially if
in,
you're brand new at it.
especially if you're brand new at it, you didn't come from it. Like there's 100% things that you are going to learn. And although it may take some time, it took us 4 years to get to 12 horses. You're going to want that gradual progression because, like we said,
It was worth every
there's
day.
going to be things that you have to learn on your own.
The time that it took was worth every single day.
Great. Food and water sources.
Yeah.
You're going to want to make sure that you got people lined up, because there's nothing more sad. I mean, I guess I could never be the person that has animals here and they're not getting fed, right?
Yeah.
So if you are also that kind of person, if you're not that kind of person, you probably shouldn't have livestock. But in our house, the horses eat first.
Yeah.
The dogs eat first.
Yeah.
And then Sonny eats, then Sean eats, and then Mama eats.
Yes. Yeah, but it's very important to have those connections with other local farmers that harvest hay in case your land for some reason doesn't have enough grass for them to eat year round, which if you're in somewhere like Nebraska that has 4 seasons, you're never going to be able to grow grass in the winter, so you're going to need to have hay at least in the winter time.
And water. You're going to want to make sure that the water, that however your place is set up, or if you're building out vacant land and you're like setting it up, I want to buy this land to have horses on it one day. You want to make sure that you're thinking about where the water is going to come from and how it's going to get to those water tanks for your livestock.
Yeah, where it's located is big.
Like, especially if you're going to like build a chicken coop, maybe don't build it so far from the house, because you're going to want to be able to like very easily fill up the waters instead of dragging water all over the place. And if you're on an acreage that's outside of city water, you're going to have to maybe think about, if you do want it further away from your house, you're going to have to think about maybe an additional well.
Yeah. Or if you have a well, can your well handle the additional water supply?
Yeah, because our horses go through, each one of those tanks are 500 gallons.
They go through it about once every other day.
Yeah. A lot of water.
A lot of water.
Okay. Next one, machinery.
This
I'll let you go.
Machinery is a lot of fun. Very expensive though.
Bigger the livestock,
the bigger machinery.
The price ticket on that machinery is.
Yeah. Yeah, so we chose to go with a skid loader at our property for a lot of different reasons, but one of the main reasons was we live on top of a hill, and there's lots of hills in our property, so we wanted to have something that we felt would be stable driving up or down a hill. And those tracks are pretty wide, so it's kind of hard to tip those bad boys. Tractors would have been another option that we would have looked at, but we felt like those tractors were a little bit more narrow, probably weren't
as wide and heavy.
Yeah, they're top heavy, so and they're narrow and they're heavy, so we felt like maybe they wouldn't get as good of traction on a hill as a skid loader would.
And like there's definitely ways to like feed your livestock without having big machinery, right? But it totally makes it easier of a job to feed the horses round bales versus feeding them square bales all year long. So like square bales, you break up the hay and you actually are hand feeding them, right? But in some months you can have the horses be on round bales where you're using your machinery to put large amounts of hay into their paddocks, into their dry lots, about every other week.
And
yeah.
1,600-pound rolls of hay.
You need some machinery
with your hands.
You need some machinery to move that. So for that specific example, now you might be able to find you a farmer that's nearby that rolls the hay for you and can deliver them into the area that you need it to. So think about that. If you don't want to go and buy a $40,000 skid steer, make sure that you're thinking about how can whoever's going to bring me my food source get into this with your fencing, see how all these things connect, and how could they deliver it so that I don't have to buy a skid steer. However, you're definitely, when you're on an acreage, you're definitely going to need some kind of big machinery. You're going to need a tractor, you're going to need a lawnmower, you're going to need something that can pull a big tree that fell down on something. You are going to need something. So what's cool though about buying acreages, sometimes we've seen, is that the previous owners already have some machinery that they're willing to sell to the new buyers. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, maybe you can include it in the purchase price. You got to take that personal property out of the contract, though, because the appraisers don't like that personal property in that contract.
All right, we talked about fencing, we talked about shelter, room for comfort, food and water sources, machinery, and the last one, the honcho, the biggest deal, the most important one, community support.
Oh, yeah, community support is huge.
We would not be able to be successful at what we do with our acreage and boarding horses if we didn't have the support of our community, if we didn't have local farmers that brought us hay in negative 12-degree weather, if we didn't have our neighbors put up signs, horse boarding in Ponca Hills in their front yards for people to call us, they advertise for us. And we wouldn't be where we are today if we didn't have some of our neighbors that are mentors for us that also board horses or that have horses that have seen,
unique situations.
Oh, this horse got a cut. Here's what it's looking like. What should I do? Should I just, can I handle this myself or do I need to call a vet? Where are you getting your hay from? How much is that hay? Like all these questions. Again, Sean and I didn't grow up in this industry. Our parents never lived on acreage, never had livestock in their front yard. And now that we do, we definitely need people to lean on. So community support is the most important. And if you want your journey of having livestock on your acreage to be successful, you will most definitely need the community support. Tell your neighbors what you're thinking about doing and get them involved too. Like, my neighbors now, like if a horse gets out, I get a call, and I can't see the horse get out. My neighbor's a little bit closer to where the horses are. Hey, your horse is standing outside the fence looking at me.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Very helpful.
But you're going to need that community support. So, do you have anything to say about community support?
No, I think you covered it all. Yeah, the mentorship was something that I was thinking about, just connecting with people in the area that are already doing what we wanted to do and
helping us with the build out too.
Everyone gave us ideas, helped us out, supported us.
Yeah, like when it wasn't like necessarily set up for boarding horses. It was kind of set up for boarding horses.
It was set up for having horse pets.
I mean, but it wasn't set up right. But like if your own horse got into barbed wire, that's your problem, right? But since we're dealing with other people's horses, we don't want to walk down and see a horse wrapped up in barbed wire. So we're like, we got to take the barbed wire out. We got to have a place where people can come and put their tack, all their horse stuff. We got to have, nice fencing and have this set up so that we could have multiple horses here. And prior to us, kind of designing that all out, we had a neighbor come over to our house and say, if I had your piece of property, she boards horses, this is how I would set it up. And we set it up exactly like that. And, no one really wants to, emotionally, no one really wants to, like, I guess, come from a place of, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyways. And the best place to start if you're feeling that way, I don't know what I'm doing, but I really want to do this, is, again, the community support, is your neighbors that have done it, someone that's done it, someone that's interested enough in you to come and check it out and tell you what they would do or what they would do differently. And that's what we did.
It was very interesting when we first bought our place and we kind of were announcing that we were going to start boarding horses. Neighbors started flocking over here like crazy. It was a freaking parade, like lines coming in to come see our property. Like, oh my God, these new kids are in town and they're going to be boarding horses. But let's go check it out.
It was really, it really came from a place of not like, it came from more of a place of like support when people were coming over. It wasn't like it, but then there was also some more of our friends when it comes to having livestock on your acreage all of our friends were like, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. That's going to be so much work. That's
You're
not going to,
be a
that's not going to be
freaking
worth
farmer.
it. That's not
Yeah.
going to be worth it. Like all of that kind of negative feedback. And then once we kind of put it out to the community who weren't necessarily our friends in the beginning,
But they are now.
they are now, supported us and like came over and was like, this is how you should do this. This is who you should call. You know, when you have this problem, let's do this. And so, yeah, the community support was definitely, it's definitely our biggest, it was the backbone to how we got started. And
It continues to be our
it continues to be the backbone of what we do. So, shout out to the Ponca Hills community. I definitely couldn't imagine a different community. I have like multiple couples around the area that have like my horse boarding signs in their front yards that help me keep our production full. And you know, local farmers helping me out. Hey, I know it's like 10 degrees out, but I'm out of hay, and the skid steer won't start to move the bale, and I got to feed him a square bale, and I got to come and get some hay. So it's just like you need the support. So
Yeah.
and we would be happy to support you.
Yes.
So if you are looking to possibly make the dream of owning an acreage in Nebraska or Iowa a goal of yours in the next year, next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, at some point in your life, we would love to be there to help you out. So give us a ring.
Yeah. Who better? SK and Ren.
We've done it. We've done it. We are not perfect. We are not perfect, and we do not know it all, but we know quite a bit.
We know enough to be dangerous.
We know we went from boarding 0 horses. We went from never being around horses in our entire life to boarding 12 horses. And there's a little bit to know with that. So we appreciate you guys for being here. If you guys are in the Omaha, Nebraska, Council Bluffs, Iowa area, hit us up. We would love to chat about finding you an acreage at some point,
so that you can live out your dreams.
There you go.
Of having livestock.
All right, talk to you later. Thanks for watching this beginner's guide. If you want the intermediate guide, it's going to cost you.
Yeah. Put in your email and we'll send you a copy.
Bye.